Protect your car with 3W Liners all-weather floor mats. Made from durable materials like TPE and rubber, our mats are designed to withstand rain, snow, and mud with deep grooves to trap dirt and liquids. For a custom fit and advanced protection, visit 3W Liners. That's the number 3, WLINERS.com today. Cases, innovation drives us. Since 2008, we've been creating cutting-edge technology products that make your life easier. With a focus on performance, design, and customer service, we're here to help you work smarter, not harder. Join us on our journey to simplify your world. Visit acasis.com today. That's ACASIS.com today.
Farmhounds offers natural treats and chews made with quality products that support family farms, regenerative agriculture, and humane farming practices. Give your dog the best with wholesome, organic ingredients that promote health and happiness. Shop now at farmhounds.com. Unlock a world of convenience with Mully Box, your one-stop solution for personalized subscription boxes delivered right to your door. From gourmet snacks to unique finds, each box is tailored to your tastes. Experience the joy of surprises. Subscribe today at mullybox.com. That's MULLYBOX.com. We are Rogue Media Sports.
And welcome to the Cam Show. on Rogue Media Sports Network. I'm your host, Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeping us on the air as he does every weekday. We are live on YouTube as we are every weekday, 9 noon Eastern time, and available wherever you get your podcasts as well. You guys have been so amazing on the show the last couple of weeks. The views have skyrocketed. The Instagram has been huge. It's at the Cam Show. We're posting Instagram reels every day. We just had the Tanner Jeannot meltdown go over 100,000 views. So appreciate you guys. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, like the video. We bring you mostly hockey talk at this point, 5 days a week, and of course, other things going on in Boston sports as well. On today's show, we will have plenty of hockey talk. In fact, all hockey talk. The top 5 bounce back candidates in the NHL this year. We're talking players, not teams. Certainly there will be a Bruins flavor on that one. And Morgan Geekie's contract, which is kind of the big move for the Bruins in this offseason. Is that a bad move? Was it just a lucky year for Morgan Geekie? We'll go over the numbers behind that. And then the hidden prospect that nobody knows about who was dominating Bruins development camp. Did they finally get a diamond in the rough draft steal in the later rounds? We'll talk about all that and more coming up on the Cam Show. But we start where we start. Let's hop into it. The top 5 bounce back candidates for the NHL season in 2025-26. Of course, going through a whole nother season, historical feats achieved, but a lot of guys that kind of missed the mark along the way. So here's our list of the bounce back candidates, guys who need to, or we're really hoping they have a bounce back season in 2025-26. We start with a Boston Bruin. Number 5, Jeremy Swayman of the Boston Bruins. Of course. Just a huge letdown in season number 1 of an 8-year by $8.25 million contract. It started with a ton of drama, right? This went on throughout the summer, and Swayman's like, I'm setting the market. I know my worth. Maine Business School. Cam Neely coming out saying, I know 64 million reasons why I would have signed. It got kind of ugly, okay? And Swayman didn't have a preseason, and it led to a career worst year after making his first All-Star team in 2024. Because you see, Swayman gets the contract based off of his 2024 playoff performance, which was outstanding, even though the Bruins only made it 2 rounds and really had no business even getting past the first round, let alone pushing the Florida Panthers to 6 games. It's because of Jeremy Swayman. In that postseason, he had a 2.15 goals against average and led the playoffs with a .933 save percentage and an 11.1 goals saved above average. The guy was left out to dry, but he was absolutely incredible in those 13 games. He actually only played 12 of them. Linus Ullmark played game 2 of the Toronto series. He was absolutely fantastic. He was the reason why the Bruins got as far as they did. But in 2025, after signing the massive contract, everything took a step back. Career worst, .892 save percentage. Career worst, 3.11 goals against average, 3.11. For a guy getting paid over $8 million a year to stand in between the pipes, that is really not good. And speaking of bad, he had 14 really bad starts. That is, of course, starts where you have a save percentage of less than .850. He was bad. 14 really bad starts in the season of 2024-25. He only had 14 combined in the 3 years of his career leading up to that season. So huge drop off. And we know the way the Bruins build their team around elite goaltending. They are not getting it from Jeremy Swayman right now. They went from, obviously winning a playoff series to down in the basement, 15th in the Eastern Conference. If they want to get anywhere near respectability and take a step towards making the postseason again this year, it's going to need to start and kind of end with Jeremy Swayman needing to step up big time. Number 5, Jeremy Swayman. Number 4 on the list, we go to another team that was a huge disappointment. That's going to be a theme throughout most of this, obviously. But we're sticking in the Northeast. And, well, he's not in the Northeast anymore. That's your hint. Number 4, Chris Kreider, now of the Anaheim Ducks, but, of course, in this season with the New York Rangers. He was coming off a career year in 23-24 when it felt like a lot of the Rangers were having career years, kind of like what the Bruins did in 22-23. The Rangers won the President's Trophy in 23-24, and Chris Kreider was a huge reason why, right? 39 goals, career high, 36 assists, a career high. Those numbers plummeted the next season. Just 30 points total in 24-25 after going for 39 and 36 the year before. 22 goals, 8 assists, just 2 primary assists the whole season for Chris Kreider. I know he's never been a big assist guy, but how does that happen? You go from your career high in 36 assists, which again, not great, not as many as he had for goals the year before, but goes from a career high of 36 assists down to 8 in 24-25. That is abysmal, man. Just awful. -5 in 68 games on the season to go with his 30 points. This was just a bad deal. And obviously with the Rangers, there were plenty of guys that had down years. There's plenty of guys we could have put on this list just from the New York Rangers, right? Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, Adam Fox took a bit of a step back. Igor Shesterkin signing his big contract did not have a great season in New York. I mean, you could have just gone up and down the list of guys who were disappointments for the Rangers in 25, but certainly coming off a career year and not terribly old, still in his early 30s here. I want to say he's turning 33 this year. You wonder if you got the last bit of hockey out of Chris Kreider. Certainly the Rangers think so. They traded him to Anaheim, and that's where I think he earns a spot on this list in terms of bounce back candidacy. He goes to an Anaheim team that is very interesting, obviously now with Joel Quenneville as their head coach, who's second or third all time in wins for a head coach in the NHL. He comes in kind of off the street after the controversy to come in and coach the Ducks, which is a promising young team. And if you look at the line combinations right now, Chris Kreider is looking to center a line be on the wing with a line with Mason McTavish centering it and Mikael Granlund on the other side. Mason McTavish, really interesting story. Sounds like someone who might want out of Anaheim, but a guy who himself is looking for just a small bit of a bounce back year. His potential is still pretty high. And to have a couple of veterans like Kreider and Granlund coming off 2 pretty different years. You know, Granlund had a good year with Dallas and had a good postseason. It's going to be very interesting to see how that team works. It seems like they could be close to making a playoff push this season. At second line with Chris Kreider on it could be a huge reason why they would get there if they do. So definitely some room for bounce back candidacy for former Boston College great Chris Kreider. Let's move into number 3. And this one feels a little unfair, but I'm going to explain why. It feels unfair because of what we learned about this player after the season. And that player is Roman Josi, the captain of the Nashville Predators. Okay. Josi did not have a good year by any stretch in 24-25. He wasn't having a great year before the concussion injury, but certainly what we found out in the months since doesn't sound great for Roman Josi. Okay. He was diagnosed with POTS, P-O-T-S, which is this thing where it's an injury that you get after a head injury. It's a medical condition you get after a head injury where anytime you like stand up or move around, your heart rate goes up, you're more dizzy. It's almost like kind of a vertigo every time that you do something. And so that's kind of scary. Now, the Predators have said that he is going to play this season, that he's going to be just fine, basically, is what they're saying. And even before that hit by, guess who? Sam Bennett. Crazy, I know, that led him to this injury and this medical condition afterwards. He was having kind of a career worst season for a Nashville Predators team that was a complete and utter mess in 2024-25. He had 38 points, just 9 goals and 29 assists in 53 games, a -26, like far and away the worst plus minus of his career, anywhere near a full season. It was just brutal. Only the second time in his career he played a quote full season, which I'm including over 50 games for the sake of this list, because that will come back again. It's the only second time in his career he played a full season and scored in the single digits for goals. Like, this guy has been a point machine over his career, and certainly even over his last few seasons from the defense position. We saw him have a 90-point season a few years ago. He is one of the best in this generation and certainly one of the best players in Nashville Predators history. The 96 points in 21-22 went down to 59 and then back up to 85. 85 points in 23-24 where he played all 82 games. A point-a-game defenseman, that's one of the rarest things in the league. And he went from that to just a 38-point season in the 53 games. Also had a career high in giveaways in just 53 games. That's someone they really need to step up and be the leader on the ice, even more so than just in the locker room. I think the Predators as a team are due for a bounce back. I just look at that roster and I know they were such a meme this year, but I can't see them being quite that bad again. Like, they were truly in the dregs. I think they had the third worst record in the entire league. Like, they were just horrible all season long. I expect the Predators to be better, and I do expect Roman Josi to be better, and I expect this Roman Josi season to be like one of the stories of the NHL this year. A guy in his creeping up on mid-30s, kind of a scary diagnosis in the summer. If he has a bounce back season, one of the most likable guys in the NHL. That's something that all NHL fans are going to be able to get behind. I mentioned that most of the guys on this list, in fact, 4 of the 5, played for teams that were train wrecks this year, because that obviously makes the most sense for guys going for a bounce back season. Number 2 on this list is kind of the opposite. He was a train wreck on a very good team. And I think you guys probably know where I'm going with this one. The second goalie of the list. Number 2, biggest bounce back candidates for the NHL season 25-26, Stuart Skinner of the Edmonton Oilers. Like, I'm begging at this point, man. Connor McDavid, can we get him a goalie? Like, please. There's other needs on this Edmonton team, but if they just had an above average all-star level goalie, they probably would have won the cup one of these last 2 years. I'm sorry. And I know Skinner was actually pretty good in the 24 postseason through the finals. He was okay in the finals, and had a great stretch at one point in this 25 postseason where he went like over 140 minutes or something without giving up a goal. But it's just too much Jekyll and Hyde. It's just too much Jekyll and Hyde. And I almost didn't put Stuart Skinner on this list for the same reason I didn't put Elias Lindholm on this list. And that is, how much better do we expect Stuart Skinner to be? You know, like, he's had his moments. He had one great year a few years ago, but to be quite honest, he just stinks. He's just not, he's a below league average goaltender. And for a team this good with this much skill in terms of their skaters, it is pretty unfortunate to see Stuart Skinner in the pipes being quite this bad. He was an all-star 2 years ago, which certainly looked like his career high. Since then, we have gotten the highs and lows of the Stuart Skinner experience. It's like riding a roller coaster. And this past year was his worst one. His save percentage went down 9 points to a career low 896, and that GAA went up 9 points to a career worst 2.81, which is crazy, by the way. To take it back a second, Jeremy Swayman was 30 percentage points worse in the goals against average. He was 311. Stuart Skinner in his career worst at 281. So Jeremy Swayman has had a worse career worst season than Stuart Skinner has. But looking at this, Skinner, from his all-star season in 22-23, his goal save above expected has gone down each season. It was 14.1 in that all-star season 2 years ago, to 3.1 in 2024, all the way down to negative 5.3 in 2025. What does that say about the kid? Okay, he probably had everything come together in 22-23, maybe got a little bit lucky and or played his best hockey. I think that's probably behind him. He also had 23 really bad starts this year. That's games where they make 85% of the saves or less. 23 really bad starts over the last 2 seasons. That is top 5 amongst starting goaltenders in both those years. You probably got the best you can out of Stuart Skinner. It's a real shame for Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Evan Bouchard and maybe even a Corey Perry if you feel bad for a guy like that. But he needs to have a bounce back, or else Edmonton needs to go a different direction. I know the goalie market has not been great the last 2 seasons or so. Ottawa probably made the biggest splash by trading for Linus Ullmark. And if they had the money that Jersey ended up spending on him, they probably should have gone after Jake Allen in Edmonton, whose numbers are still pretty good. But they're stuck with Stuart Skinner for right now and a career backup behind him in Calvin Pickard, a guy who barely is an NHL goaltender. So that problem sounds like it's going to persist for the Oilers. If Stuart Skinner can have a bounce back year and be an above average goalie, if he can be an all-star, they might actually get the job done and win the Stanley Cup, even with their lack of depth. So number 2, Stuart Skinner. Which brings us to number 1. We're going to stay out on the West Coast. This guy was a lightning rod the entire 24-25 season. Locker room drama, lack of production, and a huge cap hit. Kind of that like holy trinity of guys who need bounce back seasons. Number 1, the NHL player in the most dire need for a bounce back season this year, Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, all the storylines around this guy and around this team the past season, there's nowhere else we could go except Elias Pettersson. Obviously, this season was marred mostly by drama. The huge feud between he and JT Miller, guys who have both scored 100 points for the Canucks in the last 2 seasons, or at some point in the last 2 seasons. He ran JT Miller out of town. They trade him to New York, and they say, Elias, you are our guy. In fact, someone who could be a future captain of this organization when Quinn Hughes decides to leave in the next 2 or 3 years. And it still hasn't really looked great since that JT Miller trade. Pretty much a career worst year for Elias Pettersson in 24-25. Just 45 points, 15 goals, 30 assists, and a -10 in his age 26 season. That's the thing that's most alarming about Elias Pettersson. He signed the big contract, and he's supposed to be going into his prime right now. And it looks like just the opposite, actually. In seasons where he has played at least 50 games, he set a career low this year in goals, assists, points, plus minus, power play points, and shot percentage. And the last 3 years have been a huge precipitous decline. From 22-23, when he had 102 points, he goes down to 89 points last season in 23-24. And some Canucks fans were a little worried at that point. Well, then it gets halved the next year to 45. 102 to 89 to 45 points. He has not been effective on the power play. He's still been okay as a defensive center. He was a guy who was getting Selke votes a few years ago, so not exactly at the peak of his career in that statistic as well. It's just really alarming. This is a guy that signed through the 2031-32 season. He should be entering his prime right now, and the Canucks should probably think long and hard about trading the kid at $11.6 million a year. That's a huge cap hit, and everything is going down. Like, the writing is on the wall right now. I put him in the bounce back category because I do believe he can do that. If any of you have watched or listened to the show for a while, you'll know I am a big Elias Pettersson guy. I've been a huge fan of him since he came into the league. He's he's the kind of player I would love my Bruins to get. Not, getting greasy and grimy down in the corners because they focus too much on that, but rather just getting some guys with elite skill. And Elias Pettersson has had that. He's had an elite shot. He's been a great playmaker. He's obviously been a tremendous two-way forward. Like, he should be one of the best value guys in the league as a number 1 center, 200-foot game, and elite scorer. But he has gone away from that big time in the last few seasons. And this is something that Edmonton really needs to take into account. Why I think he will be a great bounce back candidate in 25-26 is I actually like what Vancouver did in this offseason. There's a ton of question marks around the drama, the locker room, and whether that has been ironed out. But Elias Pettersson is going to play on a first line with Jake DeBrusk on one wing and Brock Besser on the other. Okay, both those guys scored over 25 goals in a tumultuous season for the Canucks last year. Jake DeBrusk set a career high with 28 goals. They're both still in their prime years. They're both under the age of 30. So this should be a prime year for Elias Pettersson to bounce back, playing with 2 good, physical enough wingers who can score 25-plus goals. It should be another 70 to 80 point season if you're being optimistic around Elias Pettersson this year. He should be fully recovered from that injury that he got late in the 24 season that probably lingered into last season as well. So Elias Pettersson, for me, number 1 bounce back candidate in the NHL for 25-26. I'm interested to see what happens with that Vancouver team in general. I liked what they did with the Besser deal. I really did. I thought he was going to get $8 or $9 million on the open market. You brought him back for 7.25, which looked impossible. That dude was cleaning out his locker months ago. So Elias Pettersson, for me, the number one bounce back candidate for this next NHL season. But let me know what you guys think. Who do you think is going to bounce back after a disappointing season this past year? Let me know in the comments section below. Who's the most important to bounce back for their team? Let me know in the comments section below. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are jacked up for this 25-26 NHL season. And be sure to catch us here every weekday live on YouTube at high noon Eastern time. And then we're available wherever you get your podcasts as well. Check out the other videos on the channel, talking Bruins, talking hockey, a lot of other things going on in the world of Boston sports and in hockey news. I'm your host, Cam Stuart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air 5 days a week. I've been pretty critical of the Bruins offseason so far. The biggest move they made was extending Morgan Geekie. But was that a mistake? Did Morgan Geekie have a lucky 30-goal season? Let's talk about it next on The Cam Show.
We'll be right back after these quick words from our sponsors. This is Rogue Media Network.
Welcome to Kit Bag, the ultimate destination for football fans. Whether you're cheering for Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, or any other top club, we've got your team's colors running through our veins. From official replica kits to custom player prints of your favorite stars like Ronaldo, Messi, and Kane, Kit Bag is your one-stop shop for all things football. Powered by Fanatics, we deliver to over 180 countries, ensuring you get the gear you need fast. For true football passion, think Kit Bag. Visit kitbag.com today. That's kitbag.com. Kit Bag. For 75 years, Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. No gimmicks, just durable, well-designed bottles built to last. Join us in our mission to amplify life, not complicate it. Because at Nalgene, what goes into our bottles matters as much as the adventures they fuel. Explore more at nalgene.com. That's NALGENE.com. Looking for tickets to the hottest shows, games, and events? Ticket Liquidator is your one-stop shop for great prices, no hassles, and guaranteed tickets. Since 2003, we've been connecting buyers and sellers, providing access to sold-out events at prices lower than most secondary market options. Whether it's sports, theater, or concerts, our massive nationwide network ensures you get the tickets you want, guaranteed. For the best seats at the biggest events, start with Ticket Liquidator today at ticketliquidator.com. That's TICKETLIQUIDATOR.com. Ticket Liquidator.
I'm Hunter, the founder of Hello Cake, and today we're digging into ED meds. The number one thing we hear is that guys are sick of waiting for ED meds to kick in. Traditional ED meds take about an hour to kick in as they have to go through your digestive system, where Hello Cake's ED medication dissolves under your tongue and works in about 15 minutes. That's about 3 times faster than traditional ED medication. Curious about ED meds? Go to hellocake.com.
And now, back to our show.
Welcome back to the Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network, your Boston sports destination. We've been talking hockey, and we will continue to. I'm your host, Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeping us on the air. Real quick, shifting just for a second here before we get into a Bruins deal, because it's been a bad Bruins offseason, I think. Not that we didn't really expect that, but it's worse for the Celtics. And at this hour, Brad Stevens just announcing it is unlikely that Al Horford comes back to the team. Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and roll the friggin' dice, man. No idea who's coming back for this team. And even the GM is saying publicly in a press conference, even though there's no deal, yeah, that's probably unlikely. Celtic legend Al Horford, who is about to force his way out for the second time. Great. Anyway, let's talk Bruins, okay? It's been an interesting offseason for the Bruins. I don't think any of us expected huge splashes from them or anything like that, but it feels like they're going in a weird direction. It feels like they're kind of trying to get worse without saying that they're trying to get worse. And the big signing that they did make that got a lot of fans happy in this offseason was extending Morgan Geekie in his RFA year. Geekie coming off a career year, gets a 6-year contract worth $33 million. $5.5 million a year. And I think a lot of Bruins fans are happy with that. Certainly $5.5 million is not going to be a huge part of the cap, even as the cap continues to go up. He's a young player, 26, really played well with David Pastrnak and is a 30-goal scorer. There just wasn't much of that or many of those guys on the free agent market this year. But I think it is worth asking the question, is this the right deal? Did Morgan Geekie have a lucky year in 2024-25? I hate when that gets thrown around in sports. I'm not going to lie to you guys. College sports, professional sports, player, team. I just hate when people say, oh, that team got lucky. You know, we heard about it with the Celtics winning an NBA title last year. Oh, they got lucky. Everyone got hurt. Like, okay, they won the fucking NBA championship. What do you want them to do? You know what I mean? And it's tough for a professional athlete to get lucky for an entire season. That said, if you look deeper at the numbers for Morgan Geekie, there's an argument that he had a lucky year and that he's not as versatile as we might think going on down the line. Okay, first off, the number that we point at outside of the 33 goals, which was almost double his career high, is the shooting percentage. Morgan Geekie had a 22% shooting percentage in 2025 to get to 33 goals. That's kind of insane. He went from 13% the year before, which was his career high, and is on the low end of pretty good goal scorers, where he got 17 goals, to a crazy 22% this past year to get to 33 goals. That's a red flag. Like 33 goals is 33 goals for sure. But if you're looking at a red flag here, that is it. Like the best goal scorers in the league are somewhere between like 14 and 19% shooting percentage. Morgan Geekie was at 22. He had a better shooting percentage than Leon Draisaitl this year, okay? Only Braden Point had a better shooting percentage in the entire NHL than Morgan Geekie, and it was by percentage points. Do you really think that's going to happen every year? Do you really think Morgan Geekie's going to pot in 30 goals because he's shooting 22%? That is not sustainable. I've heard people ask, is that sustainable? I'll just go out and say it's not. A 22% shooting percentage for Morgan Geekie is not sustainable at all. In fact, a 15% shooting percentage would be pretty good, but maybe not even sustainable for Morgan Geekie. This is a guy who's in his third organization by the time he hit age 24. Okay, I don't want to bash the kid. Obviously, he had a good year. He was a bright spot for the Bruins, and I think he's a decent NHL player. But 6 years for that? I don't know. If you're giving me 6 years, $5.5 million for a nailed on 25 goal scorer, 25 to 30 goal scorer, then I'm in on that. But Morgan Geekie is not that. If you're going to sell me on 6 years and $5.5 million, I'd love for that guy to be a 25 goal scorer, and then we can talk about great value. I don't know that Morgan Geekie is that every year. I think he will probably regress to the mean. I think he's more like a 22 goal scorer than he is a 33 goal scorer. And the other big thing that kind of sticks out to me is the fact that he played on the first line the whole season with David Pastrnak. You could count on one hand how many teams in the NHL Morgan Geekie would be playing on the first line for, and you can count on one hand how many teams in the NHL could give a partner to Morgan Geekie like David Pastrnak. Pastrnak is unequivocally one of the best offensive players in the entire game. One of the best playmakers, maybe the most underrated playmaker from the wing position in the entire NHL. Okay. And you look back at the Morgan Geekie highlights and you tell me how many of them were like, man, what a play by Pasta. Great to finish it off, Morgan Geekie. And you do need that. You need a guy who can finish it off because the Bruins have plenty of guys who can't, you know, like if Pasta's saucing unbelievable passes to Charlie Coyle, he's probably not scoring as much as Morgan Geekie is, you know, like that is worth noting. But so much of this came from David Pastrnak. Pastrnak assisted on 64% of Geekie's 33 goals. 64% of them were coming directly from David Pastrnak, okay? And just looking at the counting stats, he had 9 more goals than he had assists playing with David Pastrnak for the entire season. Definitely makes you question the sustainability of that and how he can do that year in, year out. And I think what really becomes a point of emphasis for the Bruins as they move towards contention in the next 2 seasons or so is I think this chemistry with Pastrnak means there's a lack of versatility. It makes me wonder if you can move Morgan Geekie up and down the lineup as the team sees fit? Like, is he going to be able to play a middle six role or even a bottom six role where his kind of average production would be really good? Or can he only play with a generational playmaker for your franchise like David Pastrnak? I think that becomes a huge question. And that's the one that sticks out to me the most, maybe even more so than the shooting percentage and the playing with Pastrnak in general. Like, I get that. Those are red flags. But just the idea that you are supposed to be getting better over the next 2 or 3 seasons. You are supposed to have guys who are better suited for a top line role than Morgan Geekie is. And then what do you do with Morgan Geekie? Can he play on a third line with someone like a Pavel Zacha or, someone like maybe a Fraser Mitten or a Matt Patra on the other side? How do those guys develop over the next couple of years? It becomes a huge question when you sign a guy to a 6-year contract, whether you can move him up and down the lineup. For a team that is rebuilding, that is a major, major question mark. That said, the whole Pastrnak thing, I also think right now it's something you don't want to mess with. Okay, there is a side of the coin that says that. That David Pastrnak has been desperate to find guys he's had good chemistry with over the last couple of years. I know there were times earlier in his career where he even struggled to have chemistry with Bergeron and Marchand, which seemed like a tough thing to do. He obviously got over that. But really the last 2 or 3 seasons here, we've been looking at who would be a good partner for Pastrnak. You moved Pavel Zacha from a second-line wing role to a first-line center in order to keep him with Pastrnak. And certainly Geekie kept his spot on the top line throughout most of the season, even after a slow start, because of that chemistry that he has with David Pastrnak. So, yeah, on one side, is it sustainable? Can you move him up and down the lineup? I don't know, 3-4 years from now, which is something you need to take into account with the contract that you gave him. But right now, and maybe the next year or two, he does play well with David Pastrnak. He did have 57 points, which is something that the Bruins are desperate for, to have someone who could be a nailed-on 50-point scorer for this team and provide really provide secondary scoring, but he is part of the primary scoring right now by being on that first line. So Bruins didn't get better in that department in this offseason, but they're really banking on Morgan Geekie to be a huge part of that for years to come. The other big kind of elephant in the room part of this is it's $5.5 million. In the 2025-26 NHL, $5.5 million is not a ton of money. Not like it was even 3 years ago. And next year, it's going to be even less. Okay? It's going to be even less of the cap. In 4 or 5 years, that's going to be nothing. And in fact, in the early part of his contract, I think 2 years from now, that's going to be like 4 or 5% of the cap. And if you have a guy who's capable of scoring 30 goals or even 25, knock on wood, that's sustainable. Then 5% of your cap hit is not that big a deal. It does become a question again of whether he can play with other people. That's not David Pastrnak, but that's not a huge deal. And if you do have a team that's ready to compete in 2 years or so, which the Bruins should have, there's really no excuse not to have that, then 5% of your cap is really not all that bad at all. So back to the original question. Was this a bad contract for Morgan Geekie? All in all, no, because of the cap hit. I don't like going 6 years at all for a guy who's had one breakout season that has a ton of red flags behind it. I would have rather gone 4 years, but I guess it's the price of doing business now. Is it a bad contract? No, I'm going to sit here and say no, but there are definitely red flags in this. For sure. And I can't blame any Bruins fan for being a little skeptical of this 6-year Morgan Geekie deal. But then again, you need goals. He gave them to you last year. You locked it down. I think he could be a pretty valuable middle six piece when this team starts to contend. But I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments section below. Did Morgan Geekie just have a lucky year? Was this a bad contract to sign him for 6 years by $5.5 million a year? Let me know in the comments section below. Like and subscribe if you're hating this Bruins offseason so far. And let me know what you think the worst contract has been in the comments. You can find us live on YouTube, high noon Eastern time, every weekday. and then available wherever you get your podcasts as well. Check out the other videos on the channel, talking a lot of Bruins, a lot of hockey, and everything else going on in Boston sports. I'm your host, Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air 5 days a week. We're sticking with the Bruins, and we're sticking with the Bruins' future because it finally looks just a little bit brighter for the first time in a while. Did they finally get a diamond in the rough draft night steal? And I ain't talking about James Higgins. Let's talk about who that player is and what they might be used to be known as. Next on The Cam Show.
We'll be right back after these quick words from our sponsors. This is Rogue Media Network.
When you learn a language with Babbel, you start a journey that takes you further and further. Anytime and anywhere you wish. It's easy and fun. Broadens your horizons and keeps your brain fit. A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
BadCreditLoans.com is a pioneering service provider that has carved a reputation in the financial industry for its dedication to helping individuals with bad credit secure loans. By making timely repayments, borrowers can gradually repair their credit history, thereby increasing their chances of securing better loan terms in the future. BadCreditLoans.com serves as a beacon of hope for those with bad credit. Simple, fast, and reliable loan application process. And its commitment to responsible borrowing makes it a trusted partner in the journey towards financial stability.
Did you know nearly all stock price changes of 10% or more result from a single news headline? These news catalysts create trading opportunities every day. All you need is a little help to reach out and take them. It doesn't matter if your investment budget is small or big. All you need is Benzinga Pro and its powerful news alerts, price tracking, and portfolio monitoring. Subscribe now, and we'll skyrocket your portfolio today.
BosleyMD.com.
I've always had thin hair my whole life. It breaks off at a certain length. In the last 6 months, I've noticed it just really bad. I mean, you could totally see it. I wear a hat a lot. I tried several different products. My experience with the Bosley MD hair regrowth kit was amazing. It was easy to use. It let me take off my hat. I could go in public and have my picture taken and feel normal again.
BosleyMD.com.
And now, back to our show.
Back to The Cam Show, Rogue Media Sports Network. I'm Cam Stewart, your host. Zach Burke keeping us on the air. Of course, we are live on YouTube as we are every weekday, high noon Eastern time, and then available wherever you get your podcasts as well. Talking a lot of Bruins in this one. We've already talked top 5 NHL, all of NHL, bounce back candidates for 2025-26, and we went over the Morgan Geekie contract, whether he just had a lucky year. I was really intrigued by looking back at the numbers in that because that was something I saw at first. Oh, Morgan Geekie, lucky year. And I was like, bullshit. He scored 30 goals. That you don't get there by being lucky. And then you look at the numbers and you're like, you might have gotten a little lucky. But anyway, now we talk about the Bruins' future, okay? Not just Morgan Geekie, but the young guys at development camp. It's certainly been the most exciting development camp that we've had around here for a while because it feels like they actually have prospects. The Boston Bruins might have a diamond in the rough, okay? The Boston Bruins might have the biggest steal of the 2025 NHL draft. Who says so? I do. The name on everybody's lips out of Bruins development camp, now that they actually know his name, is Vasek Blanar. Somehow, this kid has come out of absolutely nowhere in the span of 2 weeks to being someone that Bruins fans just need to know more about. He was drafted 100th overall in the draft a few weeks ago. And when they drafted him, the Bruins didn't even have a picture, no graphic to put up with the tweet. And everybody's scrambling, trying to find his, elite prospects page. And they couldn't find it. There was nobody by the name of Vasek Blanar. And then after development camp, just a week and a half later, everyone's saying, holy crap, the future might be Vasek Blanar. How did this happen? How on earth did this happen? Well, He went by Vasek Richards for most of his life. So that was what the elite prospect's name was under. It is now under Vasek Blanar, by the way. He's Czech born or born in Colorado, but has Czech citizenship, and he plays in Sweden. Big left shot defenseman, 6'4", pretty skinny still, about 185 at 6'4". It's really small. Just turned 18 in April. So very young, very raw prospect, playing over in Sweden, had 21 points in 38 games. But again, he's the talk of dev camp. Adam McQuaid, who was running this camp for the Bruins scouting department, was absolutely raving about this kid and his willingness to play defense, his speed, his skating ability, the way he is on his edges. We hear that all the time in dev camp, how he is on his edges. And of course, what the Bruins tap into is this old picture of Vasek Blanar. Oh, man. Just born to be a Bruin. He even recreated it at dev camp, wouldn't you know? Look at that. Kid just oozes Bruins. Oh, man. And I can't lie to you guys. I'm no amateur scout or anything like that. I can't take a ton from dev camp, but there's videos just everywhere all over social media of this kid, Vasek Blanar. And watching him, I'm like, shit, man. It's just drills, but this kid can skate. For a kid who's just turned 18 and is 6'4", still growing into his body, clearly skinny as a rail. The kid can really skate, stop and start. He's nimble on the blue line. Of course, with these drills, he's also going up against other Bruins prospects who are the worst prospect pool in the NHL. So take that with a grain of salt. And he's years away. We're talking 3 or 4 years away rather than 1. But man, the hype around this kid is starting to build. And I think what the biggest thing is about it for Bruins fans is, when was the last time we had a draft steal, man? It's been a long time. In fact, I really can't even remember it. Obviously, I'm talking mid to late round steal. Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, second round picks. And Krejci was a third round pick. I mean, we're going back 20 years there. And for those guys to become Hall of Famers at where they were drafted is certainly wild, but this is a 100th overall pick in the draft. The only thing I can come close in the Don Sweeney era was Jeremy Swayman being a third-round pick, was also Hockey East goaltender of the year at Maine, so it's not like he snuck up on a ton of people. Vasek Blanar would certainly fit that mold as a fourth-round pick, 100th overall kind of guy. If he's able to become a player for this Bruins team, certainly in the mold of a Mason Lowry, big, tall, left shot defenseman with all kinds of offensive upside. Certainly Blanar is a little bit, how do I say this? A little bit more polished for his level defensively. Obviously very raw and probably not as polished as Mason Lowry, but in terms of the competition that he's playing against, he is a little bit more sound defensively than Mason Lowry was even in college at Ohio State. But this has Bruins fans absolutely buzzing. And I think this development camp has Bruins fans absolutely buzzing because it's the first time in a while that we've had legit prospects that are going to play on the team in a couple of years. Recently it's been, can we get one of these guys up to the big club? Lysell and Patra and Merkulov and I guess Lowry a little bit a few years ago, but it was mostly can any of these guys play? Can any of these guys play at the NHL level? Now you've got a little bit more hope. It's years down the line, but when you look at, obviously James Higgins was there, Will Zellers, who I'm really excited about, the goal scorer, the guy who set the record for USHL goals in the season this past year, got him in the Charlie Coyle trade from Colorado. That could be a huge deal. He's going to North Dakota next year. Dean Letourneau apparently looked better at this camp, which he needs to as a first-round pick last year. Will Moore was there, another BC kid, and Vasek Blanar. Vasek Blanar is really taking over in all of it. In a camp that had Will Zellers and James Higgins, Vasek Blanar is the guy that everybody's talking about. Albin Boya apparently was there, the main goalie who they've got the rights to, so that'll be pretty interesting. But it's really just a breath of fresh air that for the first time in God only knows, man. I mean, 7 or 8 years maybe, that there's any hope of these guys can be a part of our future. Right? Matthew Patra, maybe, but Lysell and Merkulov and, I don't know, some of these other guys in the past, you weren't like, oh, these are going to be big parts of the Bruins' future. The future's in good hands. Right now, you see a lot of young, very raw players out there, but you do think these guys are going to be part of this future, of this team's rebuild. Zellers, Hagens, knock on wood, hopefully Letourneau, Vasek Blanar, Will Moore, hopefully he's another guy who's super raw. They picked in the second round that's going to BC. Like, those are guys that you think realistically can be a part of the building blocks for your future. So it feels good. It feels like a change of pace, man. We're finally talking Bruins prospects in something of a good light. But again, don't expect Vasek Blanar to be up here in Boston playing for the Spoke Bee for quite a while. I would say 3 or 4 years, probably 3 years. And that's probably the timeline you're looking at for Letourneau and Will Moore as well. Hagens is probably the only one that comes up from that development camp within the next year. I absolutely see a world where Hagens obviously goes back to Boston College. I don't think there's much of a question about that, even though he hasn't said it. But I see a world where James Hagens is back at BC this year, has a tremendous year. After they get knocked out before the Frozen Four, because it's what BC does, he'll be up with the Bruins for the last couple of weeks of the season. I absolutely can see that. I don't think the Bruins will be in a playoff push, and it would be kind of house money. Bring them up, see what the kids got. So it's finally good to be excited about this prospect pool and possibly having the steal of the draft. And Vasek Blanar, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid way too hard. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about this Bruins prospect pool, about the Bruins draft, and how it looks going forward. Who are you most excited to see actually hit on the ice here in North America, whether it's for the Providence Bruins, USHL, NCAA? Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are hopeful for the Bruins' future. And you can find us here live on YouTube every weekday, high noon Eastern time, and then wherever you get your podcasts as well. Check out the other videos on the channel, talking Bruins, talking draft, Bruins prospects, and everything else going on in the world of Boston sports. I'm your host, Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air. We will see you tomorrow on another episode of a little ditty that we'd like to call The Cam Show.
Transform your workspace with Hanomi Ergonomics. From adjustable chairs to standing desks, we provide solutions for comfort and productivity, whether at home or in the office. Improve your posture, reduce strain, and work smarter. Visit us at hanomi.co today. That's HINOMI.co today. Experience the future of secure private cloud storage with Internix. Protect your files with end-to-end encryption, ensuring your data stays private and accessible only to you. Enjoy seamless, fast storage without compromising security. Visit Internix.com today and take control of your digital life. That's INTERNXT.com today. Protect your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. Whether at home or on the go, NordVPN ensures your digital freedom. Stay secure. Download NordVPN today at nordvpn.com. That's NORDVPN.com. Tusanes, we understand that maintaining a healthy lifestyle can be challenging, especially in today's fast-paced world. That's why our mission is to make fitness accessible to everyone, anywhere. Committed to excellence, we adopt a user-centric approach guided by ergonomics and medical science. With a team of seasoned professionals in R&D, design, and manufacturing, we prioritize quality across our entire product line. Visit Tusains.com today and start your journey to better health. That's TOUSAINS.com.